There are more mysteries in the deep, dark waters of planet Earth than we realize. After all, we know more about the outer reaches of the galaxy than we do the 5 oceans. Although it was hard to choose, I was able to find 10 really great mysteries hidden in the marine depths. Mysteries that may never be solved. Number 10. The 4 Lost Submarines. The year 1968 was not a good time to be on a submarine, no matter what country you were from. Within the first 5 months of this year, there were 4 subs that went down and not one could be fully explained. It started on the 25th of January with the INS Dakar from the Israeli Navy. Nobody knows exactly why this sub went down, even after her wreck was found 31 years later between Crete and Cyprus. What was strange is that there was no evidence of foul play, yet there was also no evidence that any emergency equipment was employed before the ship crashed. Just 2 days later, the French sub Minerva went down. Despite her captain being well seasoned on subs, without a single incident during his career, and the sub traveling just below the water surface, she disappeared without a trace after reporting in, claiming to be an hour from her home port in Toulon. Despite her proximity to the shore, her wreck has yet to be found. The next submarine that disappeared that year was the K-129 from the Soviet Union. Everything about this submarine is shrouded in mystery, and there is a surprising amount of debate still occurring as to what happened to it. American intelligence claimed to have found its wreckage somewhere northwest of Oahu in the Pacific Ocean, though its specific location is an official secret. Some experts believe that the loss is somehow connected to the final sub that vanished that year. The USS Scorpion vanished on May 22nd, and there are several theories as to what could have caused this crash. Most people believe that it simply malfunctioned. After all, it was supposed to have a major overhaul to bring it up to new submarine standards, but the overhaul was postponed. Adding to the mystery is the fact that the United States started looking for the vessel several days before it was due in port, as though they knew it wasn't going to show up. Number 9. Underwater tornadoes. If you've ever experienced a tornado, then you know that they're powerful forces of nature that shouldn't be messed with. So what happens when you run into a tornado while diving? Well, for 6 experienced scuba divers off the coast of California, you consider yourself incredibly lucky just to have survived. These underwater tornadoes are most likely caused by changes in water temperatures as a result of underwater volcanoes, but there's no way to know for sure as these phenomena are rare and even more rarely studied. Wondering what else nature can do underwater as well as it can on land? How about an underwater waterfall? It might sound totally redundant, but there are underwater waterfalls, including one in Mauritius and the Indian Ocean. So how is this possible? Well, we know that cold water is much denser than warm water, and when different temperature currents meet in the ocean, the cold water takes a direct route beneath the warm water in the same ways as water drops on a land-based waterfall. The sand from the shores is then driven by these ocean currents off of the high coast shelf and down into the darker ocean depths. Number 8. The Baltic Sea Anomaly. As the story goes, it was June of 2011 when a group of treasure-hunting divers known as Ocean X discovered a mysterious object on the floor of the Baltic Sea. According to them, when they got within 650 feet or 200 meters of the object, all their electronic equipment failed. Although the sonar images they got are blurry at best, they show a mysterious-looking artifact that could be naturally formed or created by the hands of man. Some even speculate that the large disc-shaped object is extraterrestrial in nature. Scientists that have studied samples taken from the rock believe it to have been formed by glaciers, but this hasn't been confirmed and there is still much mystery surrounding this discovery. Number 7. The Bloop. This is one of the mysteries of the deep that has been solved, but it certainly had people from all over the world wondering about what strange, massive, and unknown sea creature could have made such a sound. Bloop was the name given to a previously unidentified sound picked up by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in 1997 in the Pacific Ocean. Because the sound was unknown but described as organic in nature, it sent people wondering what type of huge animal was making this distinctive sound and loud noise. It wasn't until an acoustic survey was conducted along the Bransfield Strait in 2010 that this mystery was solved. According to the researchers, the bloop was actually the sound of ice breaking off of glaciers and falling into the ocean. But if you're into audio mysteries in the ocean, here's some good news. There is another mysterious sound that has not yet been positively identified by researchers. This sound is known as the upsweep. It has been heard since the NOAA started recording sounds back in 1991. So far, they've only been able to determine that the sound is originating near an area of heavy volcanic activity, leading experts to believe that it may be caused by these underwater volcanoes. However, the fact that the sound is heard more often in spring and fall makes it even more mysterious. Number 6. Weird bacteria. Bacteria are an important part of every ecosystem, including the ocean, and some have adapted perfectly to survive in the extreme environment found in the deep sea. One type that has recently been discovered are green sulfur bacteria. Like many other types of bacteria, these need to photosynthesize to survive. In case you missed that day in 7th grade science class, photosynthesis is a process that plants use to convert sunlight and water into energy. The key here is sunlight. It's why a plant dies without light. They need sunlight to eat. So, what does that have to do with green sulfur bacteria? Well, they live below where sunlight reaches, so they use what little light is produced by hydrothermal vents instead. These are openings along underwater volcanoes that produce heat and apparently just enough light for photosynthesis to occur. Number 5. Battle snails. Battle snails may not sound very exciting, but hang in there because these little guys are as amazing as they are mysterious. This species was so recently discovered that it doesn't even have a name yet. It lives around hydrothermal vents and actually uses iron sulfides to form plates of armor to guard the part of its body that sticks out of its shell. In fact, when one of the biologists was first examining one of these creatures, his forceps kept sticking to the armor because it's magnetic. How many creatures do you know that produce iron to use as a defense mechanism? Battle snails aren't the only mysterious animals found around hydrothermal vents. There are also tube worms that can reach nearly 8 feet or 2.5 meters long, hairy hoff crabs that get their nickname from the one and only David Hasselhoff, and eyeless shrimp that instead have light-sensitive patches on their backs. Number 4. Cold water coral reefs. Normally when you hear coral reefs, you think about scuba diving in the warm water of the tropics. After all, that's where coral reefs thrive, right? Many of them, yes. But there are also cold water coral reefs that scientists have only recently been able to start exploring. Although these have been known to certain communities for hundreds of years, the depths at which they live made it difficult for researchers to get to them until now. Like their warm water relatives, these massive organisms are home to a slew of other marine animals. Unlike tropical corals, cold water corals don't have symbiotic algae living in their polyps, so they don't need sunlight to survive. They feed solely by capturing food particles from the surrounding water. Who knows what scientists will find as they explore them. Number 3. Giant and colossal squids. There are so many questions surrounding these behemoths that it's hard to know where to begin. Because these massive creatures live so far beneath the surface of the water, it's nearly impossible for scientists to study them. And although their bodies and parts have been washing up on shores for ages, it wasn't until 2006 that a living one was finally captured on film. Although we know that their diet likely consists of fish, shrimp, and other squid, we don't know how they catch and eat this prey, or if they may occasionally go after larger prey such as whales. We also don't know how they behave on a daily basis, whether they remain in the ocean depths all the time or head towards the surface at night. We don't know how long they live, or even how fast they can swim. Even their size remains a mystery, as there's no way to know just how big these immense creatures can get. Number 2. The Great White Shark Mystery. When a group of researchers set out to study the movements of great white sharks, they didn't expect to end up with a puzzle on their hands. But that's exactly what happened after they tagged a 9-foot or 2.7 meter long female they called Shark Alpha. When her data tag washed up on shore a few months later, it had an interesting story to tell. The tag suddenly plunged deep into the depths of the ocean, reaching nearly 2,000 feet. Or 600 meters. Then the temperature of the tag jumped up. For the next 8 days, the temperature stayed steadily high until it eventually dropped to the surrounding water temperature as the tag made its way to the shore. The only explanation was that something had eaten the great white shark whole, and then the tag passed through its body. But what? What creature is big enough to eat a 9-foot great white shark whole? People have suggested everything from a bigger great white shark or a killer whale to megalodons or even the kraken. Although the general consensus is it was a significantly larger shark, this is one marine mystery that will never truly be solved. All we know is that they're going to need a bigger boat. Number 1. The USS Saratoga Mystery. Imagine being the captain of a ship in 1781. You're traveling along with another ship, the wind kicks up and almost capsizes your boat, but you quickly get things under control. Then you look up to see how your sister ship has fared and find the horizon empty, without another ship in sight. The other ship has vanished without a trace. That's exactly what happened to Midshipman Penfield when he was put in charge of a ship that was captured by the USS Saratoga. This ship and her captain John Young had proven time and time again that they were more than capable of performing their duties, as this American ship successfully captured a number of British and other merchant ships after she was commissioned. What happened to this ship and her crew? How could so formidable a ship vanish without a trace? The answer to those questions are as mysterious as the wreck of one of her successor ships, the USS Saratoga CV-3, which was intentionally sunk during a nuclear test of Operation Crossroads. Perhaps the mysterious wreck of the original Saratoga would hold some answers, but her final resting place is part of the mystery. Had she been taking on water without Penfield's knowledge and finally sank beneath the surface as he was preoccupied? Did she see another ship that she began to pursue that blew her out of the water? Or did she fall victim to one of the many large creatures that lurk beneath the ocean's surface? We shall never know. With an estimated 95% of the ocean not yet explored by humans, it's no surprise that even if all of these mysteries are solved, there are sure to be others uncovered. Nevertheless, do you think you can solve any of these mysteries? Let me know in the comments down below, and thanks for watching.